Hi, in this video I will explain how you can create animation and how you can work in animation controller in Unity. Okay, first of all, you need a sprite sheet with multiple images of same sprite. Like here, I have downloaded this sprite sheet which have multiple sprites in it. Like it's a flying bird with different images of its flying states, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 different images. Now, the first work you have to do is you have to slice this sprite sheet into individual sprites. I have explained this in my previous video. You just have to select the sheet you want to slice. Just go to the sprite editor and just slice the sheet and you will get individual sprites from that specific sheet. Next, if you want to create a simple animation of the same sprite sheet, just drag and drop this sprite sheet into your game and it will automatically create a new animation for you. Okay, now I have created this animation, a game object with animation, and now I'm going to run this game. And here you can see now that this bird is flying. That is all based on all that images in that sprite sheet that are being called in a timely manner, and you feel like that the specific object is moving. Now if I go back to this object, I can see here a game object. I can see here on the inspector that there is an animator component being added to this specific game object with a controller attached to it. And when I open this controller, you can see we are now on animator menu, and there are different states. Like you have any state, you have entry state, and you have new animation state. Now these all things are created automatically, and all these animations are created automatically after we have dragged and dropped the whole sprite sheet onto the scene. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to create our own animation with different states. Okay, next I will explain how you can create your own animation. For creating your own animation, just right click on the project view, go to create and create a new animation. I will name it as bird. Now this is our animation named bird. Now of course I have to add this animation on any of the game object. When I'm going to double click on this animation, I can see this window of animation where there are different options. This won't work at the moment. We have to add it on any game object to make it work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this animation on this game object. When I drop this animation on this game object, you can see there is this new file created, and this is an animator controller. Every game object with animation will have an animator controller object attached to it with multiple animations on it. Like for example, if I'm going to double click on this game object animation, you can see there are some states in it. We have entry state, we have any state, we have exit state. These are implicitly created state. The main state is the bird state, which is this animation on this state. So what happened is this bird animation is added to this game object. We can have multiple animation on one game object. Like here right now we have only bird animation. If I'm going to right click here and create a new animation and drag and drop on the view, you can see now this game object have two animation. One is bird and second one is new animation. I'm going to give an example. For example, in your 2D game, there is a game object or sprite or a Mario character. It can run, it can jump, it can duke, it can walk. So all of them would be different animation. Like there will be one animation for run, there will be one animation for walk, there will be one animation for jump. So all the animation are going to be controlled from this animator. So that's why we can have multiple animation in one animator controller. And that animator controller will be added to any of the game object. Next, I want to make this bird animated, and I want to add all these image on the animation. What I have to do is I have to open the animation. I have to select the game object on which I want to add animation, and the animation is added to this game object. Now you can see like we have this button activated, which is add property. So I can add either transform, I can add either Sprite render, I can add any of these animation on my game object. What I want to do is I want to add all these images so this bird will look lively. What I have to do is I have to drag one of the image and I have to drop it here on this timeline. You can see now we have this one dot added here. Now what I am going to do is I am going to drag and drop other sprite on the timeline, and you can see this object is also dropped here and there is a dot here. Now I will drop one by one all the sprite from this sprite sheet on this timeline. 5, 6, now almost all the objects are added on the timeline. Now I'm going to click this play button and you can see that our game object is now animated and it contains all the images that are being run in this 1 second. I can increase the time by changing the last event here, and you can see there is little bit stop because there is time difference between the last and second last image. So if I want to have a slow animation, I can just move the images a bit away from each other, and I want to have a fast animation, I can have all the images closer to each other. So that's how you can create your custom animation. Well, now the animation is added on this game object with an animation controller. I'm going to run this game. And now you can see the game object is being animated. And when I press the keys, it is moving in the direction. I have explained this code in the previous unit, that how you can move a sprite in a 2D plane on X and Y axis. I'm going to give a bit of recap. I will go into the code. Here you can see in the update method, I have written these 4 if conditions. Like if I am going to press the right arrow, we are going to move in the right direction. When I'm going to click the left arrow, our game object is going to move on the left direction. When I press up, it will move up, and when I press down, the game object is going to move down. And here you can see that I have given the move speed value, which is 10, and also time dot delta time, which is the time between 2 frames. And the translate method is used to change the position of the game object. So this whole line of code is moving the game object in the right direction when the right arrow is pressed. And next you can see that the game object is flipping. When I am pressing right key, it is going, its direction is right, and when I press the left key, it is flipped in the left direction. How we can achieve this from the code is, you have to have this private sprite renderer, and then you have to of course initialize this sprite renderer. Next you can call renderer.flipx equal to true to flip it on the right side, of course when you are going to press the right arrow, and flip it on the left side. So you have to do renderer.flipx is equal to false, and when you are going to press the left arrow, your game object will flip to the left side. How this is achieved is that this sprite renderer class contains all the properties of the sprite renderer component, which include color, flip, draw mode, mask interaction, sprite short point. So if you want to change all these options from the code, you can just make the sprite renderer object and you can call all the function and change these things from your code. So that's how we can move a sprite on a 2D plane by flipping and also flipping it on the x-axis. Now we know how we can move a game object in a 2D view and how we can flip it. Next, what we want to achieve is we want to add multiple animation on this game object and we want to control it from the code, from the script. Now, for example, this is a game object which have only one state, which is flying. And I want to add two states to it, an idle state and a flying state. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this animation as flying. And now I'm going to open my animation controller and I'm going to change the name of this bird to flying. Now we have one state here which is flying and I want another state which will be idle state. So I'm going to create another animation and I will name it as idle. So now we have two animations, a flying animation and an idle animation, and I'm going to add this animation on the game object. And you can now see that this idle animation is being added in our game view. Now we have two states here, a flying state and an idle state. What I want to do is I want to add single image of bird to this idle state. So when I am still, the idle state will be called. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the idle animation. From here, I'm going to select the game object and I'm going to only drop one sprite here in the timeline. So the idle state will only contain one sprite and I'm going to save it. So now we have two states here, an idle state and a flying state. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete this flying state and our entry point will become idle state. So whenever our game will start, our game object will be rendered, it will be in idle state. Now I'm going to drag and drop the flying state again into my game view. Into this animator controller. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one transition from idle state to flying state. You have to right click on the state and make transition. So a transition is made from idle to flying state. I will tell you how we can move from script from idle to flying state. Next, I will make another transition from flying state to idle state. Why I have made another transition? Because we will be moving our game object and when our game object will be stopped, it will be in idle state. So the game we will have transition between these two states, idle state and flying state. Next, another important thing here are parameters. We can set the parameter on basis of which our state will change. So we have four types. One is float, one is integer, one is bool, one is trigger. I'm going to select integer from here and I will name this integer as change. And now we have this integer change, which value is 0 at the moment. Now what I will do here is I'm going to double click on this transition or click on this transition and you can see on the right side on inspector we can see some option here and we can set the condition based on which we will have transition from idle state to flying state. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to press this plus button. I will select the change option and I will select when the change value is equal to 2. This transition should happen, in which we are going to move from idle state to flying state. Now I'm going to select this second transition and I'm going to click this plus button and I will say when the change parameter value is equal to 1, it should move from flying state to idle state. Now next we are going to move towards script to change the value of this change variable. Okay, our transition and states are set. We have one parameter based on which we are going to move from idle state to flying state and then flying state to idle state. I'm going to go to the script where we wrote the movement script. So when we are going to press any key, either right, left, up or down arrow, we should be on flying state. How we can achieve it? I'm going to write some code here. Is first of all, we are going to declare animator, which will be private animator. Next, I will initialize the animator in the start method. Okay, now our animator is declared and initialized. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the value of that change parameter to 2 when we are pressing any key. What I will do here is I'm going to write animator dot set integer and the name of our parameter was change and we are going to change the value to 2. And I'm going to write this code in all the if condition where we are pressing the up, down, left, right key. And of course, we are also moving from the flying state to idle state. So we have to write here the value 1 for it. So I'm going to change all the other ifs as else if. And I'm going to write last statement as else statement. I will copy paste this here and I will have now value as the change parameter value as 1. Now what is happening here is when I'm either pressing right, left, up, down key, our integer value or our parameter value will set to 2. So what happened here is this transition will be called. This transition will be called where our change value is 2 and we are moving from idle to flying state. So when I will be pressing any of the key, we will be in the flying state, and when I will not be pressing any key, the value of change parameter will be 1 and we will move from flying to idle state. So we will be in idle state. So I am going to run the game and now you can see our game object is in idle state. When I am going to press the left key, it is going to go to the flying state and we can see the flying animation, and when I stop pressing the keys, it is going to go back into the idle state. So in this tutorial I have explained about 2D animation. I have explained how you can move a game object in the 2D view and how you can perform flipping of a game object on x-axis, and also about animation and animator controller. Thank you and have a nice day.